of contest that you need to take up, and this is obviously not ending over towards that northeast side. I mean, it could, but it'd be very unlikely. I think for S1, you've got to take your chances here and moving off towards the west. Hellion coming in over on that north side of Rozhok now. It is interesting that we saw DE, Danger Esports, move down towards that south side. I think they were trying to figure out a rotation up towards that north, but Rozhok is now clean and clear.
S1, 2 players found out in the open. Narcos does go down in response, but that is a much more resable position right now because the other 2 players from S1 locked into this building. Batman trying to rally on out, trying to get in to get those reses, but it's going to be a hell of a dash. Actually, he's going for the flush instead. There's all sorts of angles to contend with. Does get a lot of damage in, and somehow they're able to get the flush, but Batman goes down for it. I am really not sure about that one. 3 players now for S1 down on Bended Knee.
Yeah, I think that's a situation where FaZe had to be much quicker on the ball there. Letting Batman roll up like that, especially when you had that information passed across by teammates, is slightly unforgivable. Enigma, on the other hand, takes it all into his own hands. 4 elims on that fight. Fantastic work.
Excellent stuff. To be able to take down S1 there. That's going to move Index Little Gaming a couple of points up on the tables as well, so good news for them. From the north side, though, they'll play on as 3. The circle's going to push away from them. Now it's a bit of a test. Can they get through Yasnaya, or do they go west and try and cross that way?
Okay. Nade. Really fighting up against Rook, to be honest with you. Second one goes through, gets another knock on this one. There's some evil work coming through from Molodoy from upstairs. Nade after nade after nade. An upgrade will pick themselves up. 4 eliminations off the back of that. Unbelievably well done.
We missed that one, and it came through on the replay. We were up north with Lil X Gaming.
I get a mistake from S1, honestly. Like I said, they just had to crash through.
Yeah, it's pretty tricky to try and navigate that one. It's easy to get embroiled, to get a little bit too focused, tunnel visioned.
Yeah, they just stopped. I don't know why they stopped. I don't think there was a reason to stop underneath the compound that sits just above Lil X right now. I think you just vehicle your way through and meander, try and find a position on that western side. I think most teams had opted to come down towards that south, towards Yasnaya in the first place, so this area should have been fairly free. Unfortunate for S1. Again, hindsight is 20/20 at the end of the day.
Yeah. Taking a look at the composition of this circle, the teams at the moment in the middle, Energy in that primary compound, right, that sits to the west side of those Yasnaya fields, dead center, so much control out to the east, the north, and the south, really difficult to approach. That river creates a natural blockade to the west as well, makes it pretty difficult to crash onto, especially when you've got multiple teams putting pressure on, taking attention out their way. You've got Non-Head on the north side of it as well, in a fairly central position. They should be pretty happy with themselves right now, and DRG, Divergent Gaming, looking to try and convert on what was a great game 1.
Yeah, Crystal Gaming doing some good work here for a second. They do lose Insane. Blazer goes down next as Heavenly Angels attempt to get in on the action, but some good sprays, some good jumps as well coming through. Jordan will get ran down. Now just 1 player remaining. Bazedka, Crystal Gaming is a 1v1 at the moment. Montana would like to get his teammates back up on their feet. Stage 3 right now, so it is possible.
Yeah, to be able to get those teammates back up, but you only got 40 seconds here, Blank. You really need to prioritize getting people out of this zone as soon as that zone touches its zone 4. Not resable in the blue. It's the spray down from Montana. That's just going to waste time. That's burning the candle here. Jordan not going to be able to get up here, and this is just harassment coming through from Heavenly Angels, and this is making a lot more of a difficult situation for Montana, and he has to give up the Ghost. A really well-positioned fight. But how did he just hop out there? I think that was another buggy roll-up, but into the backlines will have to flee. Just 1 player playing on.
Yeah, he just reseated himself into the back of the buggy, let that thing roll. Again, I think for Heavenly Angels, they actually make a very smart choice here, which is to instantly go for the reses. They know there's only 1 player on the hilltop, and again, it's just a completely separate idea of the situation where Jordan waits for the player a little bit before going for the reses, but should have gone for a similar tactic, which is to instantly get on those reses on the hillside while the smokes were still up, and it's that hesitation that actually leads Heavenly Angels to be winning that fight. And I thought Crystal Angels actually had it a little bit there, honestly. So, big mistake, I would say, been made. Again, hesitation really is the killer a lot of times here in PUBG Mobile. the meantime, Circle moved over towards that western side, leaving a little bit of that western edge in. In the meantime, Defo Dark moving back across towards the Rozhok Bridge, but they will have to deal with Hellion in the near future.
This circle does keep those bridges in as well, Blank. Moving to that Rozhok Bridge, that could be a 5th place play right there for Defo Dark with the reduced numbers of players that they've got available as well. After their earlier scraps, they're only playing as 2 out on that western edge. It could potentially be one of the stronger spots for them in terms of point scoring potential for the rest of this match. However, a conflict, a challenge now for a really important compound as Upgrade have finally pulled the trigger on leaving Yasnaya. They've made it across the open with 2. They've still got 1 player in the back lines. Ramses still up in the main compound.
The take, honestly. I think for Upgrade, they send some players out. Ramsey's still providing oversight. You really want this spot. And already, we have a good setup in place. The smokes are dissipating, though, which is the only difficulty, but they are slowly gaining ground. Closer and Triple S looking to pull out the nades now. I think you do need to start throwing these bad boys. A strong one sent through now. Molodoi does need to reposition. Great Molotov goes through though and gets Claus out of position. If they get that knock, it's huge.
Excellent spray down there. The sweep out wide comes on through. That comes from Runzen. And another tickle of damage, another nade as well. This could be good for Buzz, but it bounces off the window, goes outside here, and there's another shutdown across the way as well as Triple S is super, super low now. Has to hit the deck and go for the heal because there is an approaching pressure from Upgrade. Runzen straight on in for the fight. Triple S goes down, doesn't know which way to look. 2 doors to control, and none of them going to work out for him. Upgrade with a clean take. Now, can they get this regroup? Move the players back on in, all 4 players alive, and they take the compound.
Yeah, incredibly smart as well. Honestly, Upgrade has impressed me so much so far over only 2 matches. Well, 3 matches, you count the rehost. But honestly, the fact that it kept Ramses in the back line there meant that they could hold this aggressive angle over on the eastern side before they started to push up. Great setup, like I said, with the Molotovs, with the smoke, placing players out of position. But this is a spot that they really want to hold on to. In the meantime, Energy do move up, and they will find Buzz in the process. Again, I think Buzz has to get this far up in the first place to find those knocks, to find those pushes. But at this point, if I'm Upgrade, I'm looking to pull back off this compound. I don't think it's the best place to be, but that ridgeline that sits behind it, fantastic. Now they know the majority of the northeast side is clear.
It's a little bit of a worry as well that you could potentially be picked off from the south, from those fields, but NRG have control over that area, and that soft pressure that exists all over that eastern side is stopping teams from moving up. Teams like, you've got Divergent Gaming on that south side, right, as well as Danger Esports, all looking to try and move around that area, but there is just no way that they can do that under the purview of NRG. That gives Upgrade a lot more safety to do what you've just described.
Exactly. I mean, for NRG, they clear that southeast portion. Upgrade, by happenstance of being in Yasnaya early, they've already cleared out the northeast side of the field. So yeah, a lot of area on the eastern edge of the map already completely removed from play. In the meantime, we have F5 currently coming against Hellion, who are in the warehouse. There's a nade towards the back, does tag. This is a uncomfortable fight. Both teams know they have to leave in the near future as the circle starts to close in. Overall, the high ground advantage does go through to Hellion, just with those buildings to play off the back of. We'll see how they pan this one out, because honestly, there is a world where Hellion just straight up gets towards the circle early, but DRG is holding that angle.
I mean, there's a lot of trees to get around in the first place, goodness me. But in order to create cover in front of them, right, and Hellion can establish that line, that is one hell of a smoke train. You don't know which way they're coming from, but that is a huge investment of resources into a stage 5 circle. We'll see if that comes back to bite them, or if they can supply off of the death crates that they're hoping to pick up here. Wozto will go low. That rock now getting bombarded out, but the players have made their way across, and it is Danger Esports to find their way up to the wall. Finally, there's an answer, and 2 of them go down. Health bars are starting to drain, and all the way at the back line, Dynamo's the only response. 3 players now have fallen, and it's all up to Senator. DRG not going to let this one slide. Senator around the broken wall will have 1 player go down before him, but has to try and scramble to stay alive. The last survivor for Danger Esports as DRG sent them packing.
Good hold from DRG, honestly, but About 15 grenades invested there, by the way. It was pretty insane. I think you could have waited for the vehicle sounds to come up before you started tossing them, especially because they were cooking them so long that they were going to prime instantly. I think at that point you just toss in like almost a minefield where you don't cook the grenades at all and you just toss them into the smoke, and that can catch players off guard quite frequently, or at least slow down that push. But for DRG, either way, they do an excellent job at rebutting Senator and the rest of Danger Esports. But again, only player with still a few grenades on hand is Dynamo, but I imagine that they're being shared out between the team. Lil X moving up on that northwest side. This is that gas station that I talked about earlier. Cyber not allowing them to have too much fun over here. Neither are Upgrade.
No, it's a difficult place to move around. Cyber, though, only with 2 players, could maybe have a little bit of difficulty in holding all of this out on their own. Luckily, they've got that sideswipe angle, as you say, from Upgrade and from Montana, who actually did just get taken down there on the riverbank. And that is Hellion making a nuisance of themselves, the rapscallions that they are, down towards the south edge. And that will be able to pick up another point as well from Groza. There's just 1 player now remains from Intex Little Gaming.
Yeah, just Pobeda, 77 on his lonesome. Hellion actually have a large amount of space to work with on this western side, and this is quite tumultuous ground as well, so it's pretty good when it comes to holding teams out. Cool. I will say, you know, overall I've been very impressed by these Uzbekistan teams.
Yeah.
For the fact that quite a few of them are unknown on that global scene, they have been playing extremely well. I have seen some more prestigious qualifiers go a lot worse than this.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes you wonder what they are thinking. But this time around, it's nice, it's chill. We're getting some little standouts here. 2 players from Upgrade tried to get a little bit bold there. Buzz does get cut down, and they are trying to move up to get this res. Ooh, very, very heavy hit there over towards Buzz, and that's the flush coming through. That is really nasty stuff. And losing a player for Upgrade at such a pivotal moment when they have to go for this road crossing in a couple of seconds is really, really unfortunate. Energy just pushing them away from that high ground angle. You can see how this compound is talked about as such a strong position out on the west side of Yas Fields.
Yeah, honestly, it's a tough play, but in my opinion, you wrap down towards the eastern side and you play up on the lip just behind NRG's compound towards the road. Not ideal, but then you could potentially try and work the southern edge of the circle and move in there. But again, if Upgrade want to prioritize eliminations, try and take out Hellion, try to take down the final player from Cyber, that is also a respectable decision. You know, heading over towards NIG side on the lip, that's where they can survive a little bit longer. But this is how you eke out every little morsel of points out of this game.
Okay. Who was the forward scout for Hellion. They invested 3 players, holding out the last player from Cyber on that northwestern side. They started to move a 2nd player in, and now maybe Upgrade have read into that, but they've only got 1 player across. He's going to get run down by the front bumper of the buggy. Groza not going to be able to step towards him today, no sir. Upgrade cut down to 2.
Yeah, dropping the smoke in that was maybe not the ideal play. 9 eliminations so far for Hellion. Really nice game from them. Upgrade with 8. 2nd highest in the lobby at the moment. But with only 2 players, starts to get a little bit more difficult. Zvezda goes down. Hellion really are just running players down frequently at the moment. Using those buggies to great effect. Good nade, but not good enough, I don't think, for Upgrade going forward.
Not going to be able to blast the door off the hinges there, unfortunately. Most notably in the circle blank, I'm looking at Energy. They've had a fantastic position for so long, but they've only got 1 elim. Now's where they need to stand up, start taking these fights to extract value from this game. Getting a chicken dinner would be great, but if it's only 2 elims, that doesn't give you as much of a buffer as you want to be able to find. Upgrade, they're out for blood here, though. They've already found 8 elims, so already a good result for them, and a top 4 guaranteed. If they can take a player down with from Hellion with them, they're going to be happy with this one. Ramses, though, not going to be so lucky. Up in smoke goes his vehicle, and he's soon to follow.
Yeah, it's late. It's really late to make this play. Upgrade down to 1 player now. Ruzen finding 2, though, is pretty massive I think he desperately wants these flushes, though. If he can get the tally up to 10, it'd be ideal. Has to move through the field. Great spray, not enough. Extremely low HP, and Energy continues to pepper him through the smoke. A nade goes out. It's a desperate one, but both players are fairly low.
Oh.
I don't think either are going to drop.
Falcon had 9 rounds left in that magazine. Just a little bit further, he might have been able to catch the reload, get across. A low HP Groza was going for that heal, but as it stands now, Hellion are up to 12 elims. They've got the outside angle on towards Energy. They are in a prime spot here to take this one home. However, Divergent Gaming, the masters of subtlety, late game insurgency, they'll find on that south edge.
I mean, to be honest with you, NRG really don't have too much of an answer into this game. This is a uphill fight for them from this compound, and although it's provided them safety for the majority part of the game, this might be quite the low pointer. If they go down in third, which is, you know what, somewhat likely, considering I reckon that Hellion's going to likely play on this north down towards the south. I think this is the likely scenario that NRG is the first to fall out of these 3 teams.
And with only that 1 elim point, it's not as good as they were hoping for. Now, Divergent Gaming have taken a lot of this south side of the hill. Hellion a little bit more hesitant to try and go for this conflict. As soon as they pull the trigger on taking that fight with DRG, though, you do allow Energy to move out of this compound, right? Because you're preoccupied, you have a lot less pressure. So you don't want to be fighting across on these 2 teams on that western edge.
This is where inexperience could come into effect, because I think most experienced teams would opt to just hold, basically on either side. And it'd be a handshake, right?
Yeah.
That they would opt to not fight one another until NRG comes outside that compound. And I worry there with the way DRG as well as Hellion were playing is that they were kind of priming themselves to go up against one another. Luckily, they have actually made the right move. And again, this is why I am impressed by the Uzbekistan esports at the moment, because this is a high-level play, to be honest with you, to go for this. Now, NRG gets thrown a little bit of a bone down towards that eastern side, but I still think that time's going to get rough for them now. They have to remove themselves from the compounds, in which case both Hellion and DRG, Divergent Gaming, should be taking shots.
You can see they're just getting trapped in the corner there with Daggy and Gagash trapped on the inside. Azik has that off angle. You can see behind the tree in the distance for Hellion Gaming. Will have to leave it, but Energy going to have to move first. 16 seconds until the blue zone closes. They're starting to move their smoke train out. This is where they need to make their move, make their maneuver work. Gagash first through. Actually going unscathed here. Zik's slow on the pin pull there. Doesn't spray down into the smoke, and Gagash is across. He's into the zone as well. Has now got a bit of an inside track. NRG leaving a player on the back lines, getting tagged up by the blue. Wants to get a little bit of healing, but kept an angle under control. Hellion Gaming have let them out.
They're getting a little bit too close for comfort, though, in my opinion, at the moment. I think that for Hellion, they have really given up way too much ground here. Divergent Gaming moving up towards that western side, they control the majority of this space at the moment. I think Hellion gave too much. And it's a smart move from Divergent Gaming to actually move over towards this north side. A little bit too focused on this fight between them and on NRG.
I mean, perhaps the lack of Hellion moving forwards earlier wasn't cerebral, it was more hesitancy. But this time around, they're going to quell those nerves. But oh, this is disaster! A rundown into each other, and Daggy strikes perfectly around the tree trunk, cuts a second down. And Falcon now needs to have his wings clipped if they want to keep this one going. And NRG break the mold out of the compound and into the hills.
Daggy, baby. What a unbelievable spray down. Again, they light themselves up in the tree and the lumberjack comes through and it all comes crashing down around them. But Divergent Gaming come in to clean up. Is this the back-to-back?
Maybe not. There's still Dynamo to worry about. First knock is found. Divergent Gaming have a little bit more trouble to handle. Energy losing players. Gagash, spray down connects. Weapon swap for Dynamo, moves forwards, and Gagash goes down next. One player now left in the backlines. It's NRG with one hope now. Shake up against the tree, up against the crate. Gets one, confirms the flush. Crucial point potentially, but there's the nade over the top. That should do it. And it is the back-to-back here in the Uzbek finals. Divergent Gaming making a name for themselves.
Definitely diverging away from the norm, that's for sure. 2 in a row at the start of the day. They look elated, and as they should be. Fantastic plays from both games. And again, great positioning. We saw that on Sandhog where they took that position in the valley. Very awkward to play there a lot of times, as well as this match where Hellion a little bit